very briefly, excuse me, I'm just going to talk about this Bill Cosby thing one more time. Because the reaction of my first video and my post on the matter has been interesting. On the one hand, a lot of people have said, hey, what the hell? Cosby's innocent. You know, why are you saying that he's guilty? He's innocent. Here's a link to a video. Here's some podcast that his lawyer did. You know, some of these witnesses were discredited. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Okay. Other people are like, how dare you say it's a good thing that Cosby got off? Cosby's a rapist and he got off on a technicality and you're supporting rape and you hate women and blah, 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 blah. My video is not about whether Cosby was innocent or guilty. That, to me, in this case, is irrelevant, which may sound callous or horrible to either side, right? To the people who say Cosby's innocent, that sounds terrible, and the people who say he's guilty, that sounds terrible. From what I've heard, from the things I've read that Cosby himself has admitted to, whether or not some of the accusers or some of the witnesses were discredited, it seems that he has done some very bad things. Right? Personally, like, I would say that giving people quaaludes in order to get sex is a pretty bad idea. Maybe in the swinging 70s when everything was way more loose and whatever, you could sort of let someone off the hook based on everybody doing it. But we're talking about as recent as, 2004, I believe, where that excuse no longer really holds up. Not that it was a very good excuse to begin with, right? Because, I mean, even before we had a more robust discussion of consent, it's not like people didn't understand the concept way back in the 1970s. I mean, there has, for as long as humankind has been around, there's been basic notion of what constitutes consent, and maybe that has shifted over the years, and to a point now where it's, you know, much more ensconced in, you know, literature and whatnot, but and in sort of common practice. But even in the 70s, I think there was a pretty good idea that if you drug someone and they are passed out drunk or they're passed out on quaaludes, they cannot consent to have sex. But again, I am not here to litigate the guilt or innocence of Cosby. You are welcome to go watch other YouTube videos that do that, read up on it. To me, the important question in this moment, with Cosby being let off by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, is the question of due process. It's prosecutorial abuse. It is why this matters on the bigger picture beyond Bill Cosby himself. One problem with sort of, I think, the current Twitter version of social justice is that it's very focused on individuals. Oh, Bill Cosby was let off, and if you think that that's in any way, shape, or form a good thing, even if it has nothing to do with Cosby personally, but has to do with the case itself and the legal precedents that would set, then you're a bad person because Cosby's a bad person. Social justice. Okay, my conception of social justice is different. To me, how the state operates, how the government operates, how the prosecutors are able to operate, that is more important than individual cases. The reason an individual case is important is because it can set legal precedent. So, entrapment of any kind, coerced confessions of any kind, deals that are reneged on by prosecutors, these are dangerous, not because the Bill Cosbys of the world, the rich and famous of the world might get off. They might get off for any number of reasons, because ordinary people might get prosecuted wrongfully because of this kind of thing. And bad precedents that are set in a case like this could trickle down to other cases. Good precedents set in a case like this could trickle down to other cases. I mean, there are a number of things that can go wrong, right? If prosecutors start just reneging on deals, then a lot of people might say, you know, a lot of lawyers might say, well, we can't trust prosecutors to hold up their end of this bargain, right? And a lot of cases, most cases don't go to trial. Most cases go to a plea bargain. So it's important for just the functionality of our justice system to be able to have plea bargains, to be able to have, you know, prosecution and defense make deals before things go to court, or make deals during a trial as well. And it's important that both sides follow through on this. Now, I know that this is a complicated case, and I know that, you should probably go listen to lawyers who have, much more knowledge of the law, because this is just, I'm a layman in this regard. But where I'm coming from is talking about the principles of the thing, right? This is not whether Cosby is guilty or innocent. If we assume that he was guilty, then this is a terrible thing, right? Obviously, if you are the victim of a sexual assault, you don't want to see your rapist go free. That's terrible. But at the same time, nothing happens in isolation. So if he's going free because the prosecution screwed up and the court said, look, this happened, the prosecution screwed up this case. They used testimony that was effectively coerced because they made a deal to get that testimony, and then they walked back on that deal. That may seem like a lousy reason to let someone go, but if you start letting that happen, then you grant the state enormous powers to just fucking lie and do whatever they want and walk all over the law. And when that happens, you have to understand this. When you're concerned about social justice, then you should be concerned about poor people. You should be concerned about people who don't have expensive lawyers and the way the prosecution treats them. If you just allow this stuff to happen, who's going to suffer the most from it? Poor people are going to suffer the most from it. Minorities are going to suffer the most because of it. You can't just pick and choose. You can't just cherry pick justice. I mean, unfortunately, that does happen, but you shouldn't. It shouldn't happen. So I'm not, unlike some various snakes on Twitter might say, I'm not defending Cosby. And I'm not even here to say whether he's guilty. That's not my job. It's not our job. That's up to the courts, and that's up to prosecutors and defense attorneys and judges. And that all got botched in a big way, clearly, right? But what I am saying is that we do have standards for prosecutors. We do have standards for the government, for the state, because we want to protect the liberties of normal people, of innocent people, because we have rights for guilty people also. We have a process. We have due process. And if you don't value that, it's because it's because you're spoiled. You live in a country where that does matter. And unfortunately, not nearly enough. I mean, if we had a truly just society, then our prisons wouldn't be so overcrowded. We wouldn't have programs like the war on drugs. We wouldn't have these, we would have resources devoted to fighting things like sexual assault rather than nonviolent offenses. I have great sympathy for the whole abolitionist movement. I don't think we can go that far realistically, but I do think we should pretty much let all nonviolent offenders out of prison at this point. I think prison is a very one-size-fits-all solution that really doesn't work great for a lot of crimes. And I think policies like the war on drugs have devastated, especially poor and minority communities. But anyways, as to this Cosby case, why are we talking about this one? It's because it's high profile. It's not because Cosby is more deserving of this than anyone else who has been convicted based on a technicality, which I don't think this is. I think that the reason that we worry about this kind of thing, or that I do personally, is not because I'm like so concerned about Cosby specifically. I'm concerned that innocent people will be trod upon, that their rights will be taken away, that we sometimes have to defend guilty people because the system itself needs to work in such a way that innocent people aren't thrown under the bus, don't go to jail, don't go to death row. That's why I oppose the death penalty. 100% against the death penalty. No one should ever be killed in our justice system because the chance that it might be an innocent person is too crucial, too devastating, and too tragic. And also because I don't think that we as a society should engage in murder, which is also why I oppose 99.99% of all of our foreign adventures and wars, and why I oppose violence in almost every facet, especially when it's meted out by the state. So I am not defending Bill Cosby. I am not saying that he is innocent. I am not really wading into the question of his guilt or innocence at all, because I think it is not relevant to this particular case, because the case itself was fucked up by the prosecutors and the government, and the courts are righting that particular wrong, because if they didn't, they would be engaging in massive government overreach, and you can call it entrapment, whatever you want to call it, a confession essentially that the government wouldn't have had if they hadn't made this deal with Cosby. And if that's all their case was resting on, this one confession that they procured through shady means, then that's also on the prosecution. I know these cases are hard to bring to trial. I know they're hard to prove. And I understand that maybe the prosecution felt like they needed to go this route in order to prove it, and they really wanted to get this guy. And I understand. On an emotional level, I understand. But this is about more than just Cosby. This is a case that's about a broader picture of justice and what that means in this country. And I don't think we should rush into the arms of prosecutors and the government as some saviors, because I think that there are many times, and we've seen it happen many times, especially to poor people, especially to minorities, where the state does not have the interests of the people in mind, and where prosecutors do not have the interests of people in mind. And so we preserve a system of justice that sometimes bad guys are going to fall through the cracks, but hopefully fewer innocent people are crushed under the boot of the state. So that's, I think that is social justice. That's a call for social justice. It's just not the same kind of social justice where we worry a whole bunch about prosecuting this one person at all costs, no matter what the consequences of that may be. So, if you want to talk about whether Cosby's guilty or innocent, that's fine. Everyone has strong feelings and strong opinions on this. That's fine. You're allowed to have strong feelings and strong opinions on this. But I hope we can actually keep the conversation focused on one issue at a time. And here is not where I want to debate whether Cosby was guilty or innocent. I know there's many YouTube videos out there about that, and there's many strong opinions. So you do that if that's what you want to do. That is not what I am engaging in here. I'm talking about our conception of justice, social justice, actual justice, and the importance the importance of keeping the state in check so that innocent people aren't destroyed and imprisoned, wrongfully imprisoned. I'm not saying Cosby is innocent. I'm just saying that these laws affect people beyond Cosby, beyond this particular story. So I've been rambling now for too long. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, yada, yada, yada. Namaste.